Hey, welcome to the Keystone Experience. Rob Warwick,
And Matt Pitzer.
brought to you by Creek Archery. Find your passion and hunt it down.
And Hillview Motors, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Remember, Hillview has it in Greensburg, Pennsylvania.
What's going on, everybody? We got a couple special guests with us tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about chestnut trees tonight. We got Melanie and Brad. How are you guys doing out there?
Hey,
We're doing great. How are y'all?
We finally got some rain here. We've been putting off for the last 2 weeks of
bragging.
planting our food plots. Now I'm kind of kicking myself in the butt for not doing it this weekend.
Well,
Yeah, I wish we could get some rain. It missed us yesterday, but we sure could use some.
Oh, we needed it. We're on what, like day 18, day 19 of no rain?
yeah, same here.
So, I guess we might as well jump into this. What got you guys started in this whole chestnut thing?
Well, so I'm Melanie, and I kind of handle our sales and marketing and partnering with Brad for the operational side of what we're doing here. So I'd like to just tell our story real quick.
Okay.
And that is that we relocated a couple of years ago from Atlanta, where Brad was a very busy and popular taxidermist. And a while back, we had said we needed a little bit of space to get away from Atlanta. So we bought some land in Western Kentucky. And as we started to, be at this space and clean it up a little bit, we realized we needed more trees. So we started planting sawtooth oaks in a nursery in Atlanta. And the taxidermy customers would come and want to buy them. And so we planted quite a few on our land. And then we were doing research on the chestnut trees and found out, wow, they're even more popular for wildlife. So we started doing that and selling trees and planting them here on our land. And so over time, we relocated here to Western Kentucky and just decided this is something we wanted to do full time because the industry is booming. And for people that want to attract wildlife, it's super a powerful attraction. And so that's kind of the short version of our story. But I think the timing right now in the chestnut industry, for people looking to plant these trees for wildlife, but also to maybe live in a more rural environment and have an opportunity to actually raise these chestnuts and sell them. So it's truly on the rise in the U.S. right now, and we're loving being part of that story.
So what type of chestnut are you growing? Is it the
Good
American
question.
chestnut?
Let you answer that one.
Well, it's kind of hybrid. It's the American and the Chinese. And it's really like a Dunstan. That's where the nuts have come from, or Dunstan trees, which they're a cross, a small amount of American and Chinese to make them blight resistant.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you know the history of the chestnut tree.
Yeah, I do a lot of that stuff.
What was that?
I really get into the Appalachian history side of it, so I do know the whole destruction of the American chestnut.
Yes.
But our listeners might not, so if you want to go ahead and explain it to them.
Yeah.
What do you mean your listeners might not? I don't know what this is.
Were lost because of a blight that was introduced from Asia. And the history goes, of course, we were not there, but 1 in 4 trees on the eastern seaboard was a chestnut tree. And our pioneer and forefathers and stuff, that it was an important food source, but it was also a very vital timber product for building most everything. So that's why Americans, for the most part, aren't familiar with chestnut as a food product, is because the trees were destroyed and we weren't raised on them except for maybe during the holiday times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, we have a lot of Dunstans, but we've also we are now raising several different types of other Chinese trees that Greg Miller is one of the resource folks in the chestnut industry that's been cross-pollinating and creating these different cultivars and such. So on in our nursery, we're currently raising those as well because it's good to be diversified.
So how did you guys find out that the chestnut tree was such a powerful attractant for different types of wildlife?
Well, the biggest, a lot of research on the internet. Dunstan is a pretty big known, far as they've done a lot of studies, far as Dr. Crow, a biologist. They've done several studies of the deer preferring chestnuts over acorns, like 100 to 1. And so that's mainly how I got into the chestnuts, was for deer hunting. I wanted a variety of different oaks that were early bearing trees, because the white oak, the red oak, they're great trees, but you're looking at 20, 25 years before they start producing acorns. And, we want a fast growing early bearing tree, which, like the sawtooth oak, nut-all, and the chestnut, you're going to start getting nuts within about 5 years. And the sawtooths are really awesome trees, but the chestnut, they bear every year, where some of your oaks, as you well know, you might get a few years and then they'll lay off, and then they're just more consistent, and they prefer them over any other acorn bearing tree.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting when you talk to people that are in the chestnut orchard business for production. One of the main problems they have is the wildlife. So it's on one hand, people really want to attract the wildlife. On the other hand, they're like, well, they're getting all of the product. And but yeah, Brad's right. Like, so many of our customers are in 40s or 50s, and they're able to buy some land, and they want to put these kind of trees on it, but they need something that's going to produce results in their lifetime. And so we have that in common with many of our customers.
Yeah, I guess I never realized how long it took for other trees, for the acorns.
It takes a while. I've never got into the tree thing. The fruit trees, like we tried planting fruit trees, but the deer just destroy them in a matter of weeks after we plant them, so we quit doing it.
Yeah, you pretty much have to cage, like people that, a lot of the orchards, they're growing them for the nut production. For human consumption, a lot of them do fence in their area. But, I want the deer to get them also. And I also, we're going to be picking them up morning and evening. And they're going to get some, and I want them to get them. But people with wildlife, as far as hunting land, you definitely want to cage them in. You're just wasting your time if you don't. A lot of times people put the tree tubes on there, and they're great, but you have to protect that tree until it gets a certain size to be able to withstand, hold itself up, because you get storms, the wind gets to blowing, and tree tubes, a lot of wind resistance, and the stick that they use or sell with them, a lot of times they'll snap in half, and before you know it, the tree's laying over. When you go back to the property, the deer have ate the tree, slapped, just demolished it.
Yep.
So I recommend caging them almost like a tomato basket in a way, until the tree gets, about 3-4 inches diameter to support itself. And even then, you want to kind of keep a basket on it, because certain areas, a buck's going to rub the tree. We've got some down on the river bottom, and they'll always have a basket around them, because if the river ever gets up and beaver come there, of course, you get a big tree, they can devastate the area, So that part will always have baskets around there. But the upper ridges and stuff like that, the higher ground, once they get a certain size where there's no real damage of a buck rubbing the tree to kill it, you can take them off. I mean, they might nip the lower branches and stuff, but it's not going to hurt the tree.
Yeah, and one of the questions people ask us often is, how quickly are they going to produce chestnuts? So we have a nice selection of trees on our property that are going into their 7th year, and a handful of them produced last year. We got about 100 pounds of nuts, which is nothing really, but it was just a few trees. So now as we get into 7 and 8 years, that's when these trees really do start producing fairly significantly if all the conditions are good for it. Compared to, like we were saying, the other oak trees, that's super fast.
Yeah, so right now, like we were talking before we got on the air here, we were saying that, neither one of our states have had a whole lot of rain. So that plays havoc on, the trees plus the crops. I mean, our food plots, it's a gamble. You put them in and hope you get rain, or, the trees, are they a little more resistant to the drought?
Well, pretty much. The biggest thing with the tree is to get it through the first year. We lived in Atlanta, a lot of the trees that we planted up here, and like I said, they were put in for deer. And now, since then, we've cleared out around them, and we're doing more of the orchard thing. But they didn't get watered at all. It was more or less, roll the dice, because a lot of these trees that I planted were like in openings, and there was, not saying you couldn't carry water down there, but it would have been a real job to get water down there. But you're going to take a risk if you plant trees off of a road where you can't really get to them. If you do have a drought, you could lose some. But if
Uh-oh.
Okay, there you go.
enough roots to get them on. But the first year is going to be the most important. And if you get rain periodically, you're fine. But if you go, say, a month or 2 months without rain, you're taking a chance on the trees,
So the short answer is we water those first year trees.
Yeah, get them through that first year. If you're having droughts, you better carry a trash can or something like that. And
Trash can.
yeah, I recommend digging a hole off from the root ball and pouring into that hole. A lot of people will pour the water on top of the ground, and if it's dry, it's just going to run off. You dig down an inch or two, it's going to be dry. You want to dig a hole, pour that water in it, and let that water slowly soak into the ground to get down to that root ball.
I think that's actually a really good point.
And this
because
is, like I said, just mainly get them through that first year. But, if you pour it into that hole and just let it slowly soak in, it makes a world of difference.
Yeah, I agree. I actually never even really thought about that as far as watering them. I mean, I knew to water them, but I would have just taken a bucket out there, dumped it on the ground, and said, yeah, that'll soak in.
Yeah.
There's a lot of elaborate watering systems and different things that the scientific community and some of the larger growers, I think, utilize, but many don't. Just knowing you got to do what you've got to do that first year or two to, not just watering, but bugs and everything.
Yes, it's a fact. Everything's out there wanting to eat it. Whether it's deer, bugs. It's a battle.
It's interesting that some of the universities are really studying the chestnut tree now and bottom rot and different kind of weevils and bugs and this and that. And there's, grants and stuff going to try to restore not necessarily the American chestnut, but chestnut trees in general, so that it comes back, because the U.S. has the kind of climate to grow these trees, but instead we've relied a lot on imports from Asia and Europe. So there's many small farmers that are either into this or getting into this right now. And I think the average farm size is like 3 to 10 acres. So then people that are raising these for nuts can then get them to a co-op that markets and sells them. So there's applications on the retail type of side and the wildlife side, just depending on what the goal is.
You know, I always love, Buddy, when our guests lead us into another question, because my next question is going to be, where can these trees be planted? Is it, like food plots? Like I know up here in Pennsylvania, we plant food plots differently than they do out west or down south. Is the chestnut tree something that can be put into many different parts of the country?
Yep.
Yeah, the chestnuts were pretty much from kind of North Florida all the way up to Maine when the blight killed them out. And as long as your pH is around 5 or higher, it's pretty good to get, the chestnuts. And if you have usually any kind of hardwood trees like white oak, red oak, hickory, that's already in the area growing, your soil's pretty good for the same what chestnuts like.
Yeah, and I think the research shows that the growing zones are, I think it's zone 4 to 9 on the charts that show the growing zones. But we have friends that have chestnuts in so many states, and just all the factors that we were just talking about, the drought and the pests, and so many factors can affect it. But yep.
What I like to tell people, a tree is an investment when you're putting on your property. I mean, you can put some money buying trees, but it's a big investment that's going to pay in the long run. I mean, you're going to improve your property, especially if you have a lot of trees that are not nut-bearing trees. If you got wildlife, it's just a big investment to put on your land. And food plots are great, and putting trees like chestnuts, for instance, around, you're putting something that your neighbor don't have. And you get the deer used to it. You're going to pull deer from miles from other places. Once they know they can get something at a certain time of year, y'all big hunters, I know, when, you get a good acorn crop.
Yeah.
Food plots are great, and they're going to pull the deer to the hardwoods when them acorns are on the ground. That's what they're going to be after.
That's what I was doing right now is I'm looking.
If you can have some.
I was looking at the website at the different trees. And I know after this we'll be talking about ordering some trees.
Yeah, we've sold out the last 9 years. And so this year we just have a lot. We have 5,000 plus growing, and maybe we'll sell out, but some of those will go on our properties too.
We might have to make a road trip.
The other thing is, I think the farthest person came down from Boston, bought big old trailer load, and people drive a long way because it's.
Do they ride good on a Harley?
Don't you have an event tomorrow night?
Yeah, we got a bike night tomorrow night. It'll be the first one this year that we're doing with it'll be a bunch of outdoor companies. We're trying to combine the motorcycle community with the outdoor community.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, there's, I'm sure, crossovers. I was going to say the other thing about planting trees in general is just it's helping the earth. There's a sustainability component. And so we like to feel like we're giving back and helping other people give back in that little way and bring joy. The other part, I think, in the hunting community is just passing on the love of trees and food plots and hunting to kids. And so we have a number of people that will also bring either kids or grandkids and say, okay, we're buying these trees, and they go back and plant them as a family and send us pictures. And, that's rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the part of hunting that's, I think most people would agree, is the most important part. It's not what you go out and harvest, it's who you do it with and the stories you have and the memories you shared with it.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. You get a tree. A lot of our grandkids, we've planted a tree and we put a sign having when they were born, and one day they'll be showing their kids and the tree, it kind of has a little history of, as they grew, the tree grew, and 20 years from now, the tree will, be massive.
Yeah, now I don't know a lot about chestnut trees. So are they a big tree? Is this what size do they grow to?
Yeah, the Dunstan, it can grow, but you're probably looking at 50, 60 feet tall, and they'll get, probably the trees that I'm familiar with, like ours, are pretty young. So, but I have seen them where they're, 2 feet diameter, and they're not very old, and there's some over in like Europe, they're 1,000 years old.
Yeah, totally. If you see pictures, sometimes you'll think it's maybe a redwood just because of the size compared to the people standing next to it. So you can imagine how devastating that was.
The Chinese, they're not going to get as big as the American was. I mean, the American, they were known for the redwoods of the East.
Yeah.
And they were, 4 or 6 feet across, just massive trees. And they're getting the American, they're working on trying to get it a blight resistant, but time will tell, far as if they've got it finally, it won't be pure American. It's going to have probably a small amount of Chinese in it, but they're working on it. And it's just kind of the roll of the dice. If you want to plant a tree and, 10 or 15 years, the blight sets in, I'm looking at something that's already blight resistant, but,
So what was the blight that ended up killing them? Did it eat the leaves or did it kill the bark?
it's kind of it's a canker that gets into the bark, and it got airborne, and it was from the Chinese chestnut where the blight come from. But the Chinese chestnut is blight resistant, but it got into the American and wiped it out. There's a few trees around that they're few and far between, but there are some still here that somehow made it through. And a lot of them are trying to get the nut from that tree because it does have somewhat blight resistance because it still has survived. But
and there's a lot of resources. There's the Chestnut Growers Association, the Northern Nut Growers Association. Anyway, there's a lot of information for people that are newer and want to learn just in general, not just for raising the nuts, but in general. So we belong to that. We belong to the Midwest Chestnut Producers Council. So they're scattered around and have events, so that I'm on the board of the Midwest Chestnut Producers Council, and there's a function in August where it's at someone's farm that's got trees of different ages in Michigan. But we're happy to share that information with anyone that's looking to learn a little bit more.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, the chestnuts here in this country are nothing compared to other countries. other countries, their chestnuts are kind of like pecans to us. You know,
Okay.
you grew up pecans and desserts and food and all that over there, and them countries is the same way. And there's a shortage here, and they have to import. I forget right off the hand now how many millions of pounds to supplement, you know, for people that want them here. And every place that we know of, they sell out of chestnuts within probably a month or two of them being harvested. That's how many people, there's a shortage of them. And within 10 or 15 years, you're going to start hearing about the chestnut like you do the pecan.
It's also gluten-free, so it's a superfood. And that's one of the reasons that wildlife love the food. It's got all kinds of nutrients in it.
High in carbohydrate
Yeah.
and, fat. And it's not only big for the animals, it's big for human consumption. And I mean, it's going to be growing major. I mean, they're coming with making a beer out of it. And it's going to be a big topic within about, like I said, 10 or 15 years, because there's a lot of orchards that's growing right now, and they're going to be in nut production, within, say, 5 years.
It's quite profitable too. So, anybody out there that's got some land that's looking to maybe put an orchard that also pulls wildlife, it's something to think about. Want to live more rural or work remote. Like our whole world is changing and how we work, and it opens the door. And that's one of the things I think Brad and I just love is the ability to help other people do what we've done to the extent that they want to have the freedom to get out of a big city if they choose to do so, and have a revenue stream that could help support that.
So when you plant these, is there a spacing? If you plan on planting an orchard, do you have a layout
Good
for
question.
an orchard, or how do you do it?
Yeah, I mean, I started with 30 by 30, and now we've changed. We've got you hear different people that have a lot more experience than we do, 20 by 20. And then, of course, as they fill in, you come in and take every other, because sometimes you'll get a good tree that bears good and one might not, and you'll thin them in about, say, 8 to 10 years. But I've come to, I think I'm going to use a 30 by 20. The rows will be 30 feet wide, and then the tree will be 20 feet. And then, like I said, you'll come back and you'll thin them out in so many years, because you're going to get so many nuts, before they start getting too thick, and then you can thin them out. But as far as if you were growing them for, a hunting property, I would recommend 30 by 30.
Okay.
So, Rob, what does that tell you? How many trees are you going to be ordering?
I'm trying to figure it out. I'm gonna have to look at the property line here where the food plots are.
Yeah, 54 an acre or 108, kind of whether it's 20 by 20 or 30 by 30. And so we have about 1,000 trees right now, and our goal is to have 5,000 by the end of next year. And most of these trees we raise from nuts in our greenhouses, and then they go in our nurseries, and they're typically about 4 to 6 feet tall when customers buy them. So that'd be this fall. They're super healthy trees, and it's really hard to kill them too, which is another thing for people that maybe don't think they have a green thumb. They're very, very hardy.
Well, that's a good thing.
What, that I don't need a green thumb?
Yeah.
If that's you.
Look, I'm sure I can find a way to mess it up.
Yeah, they're very hardy, but you do have to use common sense as far as protecting the tree until it gets a certain size, because people will plant a tree out in the woods, or, of course, the more sun, the better. Full sun, a tree like sun, full sun if you can get it. And if you just put one out there without any kind of protection, you're just wasting your money and time because the deer will destroy a chestnut tree.
Yeah.
They'll eat it down to nothing.
We have a weekly blog on our website, unitedchestnuts.com, and we're trying to share this kind of information, just be, like I said, very transparent to help. Of course, we sell the trees and we would love to sell to anyone, but it's also wherever you get the trees or you grow them yourself, this is some of the things we have found that have worked for us.
And I always like that about a business. Everybody has a business to try to make money and make a living off of it, but it's the customer service that means the most. And when you're trying to actually help the people, I find that always just makes it that much more enjoyable and how people continue to come back.
Yeah, especially in this industry with wildlife and, whether it's taxidermy or the kind of thing, it's just the nicest people. Don't you find what you guys are doing is so many nice, authentic people that love the outdoors?
Yeah, just about everybody we've had on as a guest, we've become really good friends with, and we keep in contact. There's some big name industries in the outdoors that, we got their personal cell phone numbers, and that's just from doing this podcast,
That's awesome.
So
that's so fantastic.
What's
your favorite thing about doing the podcast?
I think it's the people that we get to talk to. And believe it or not, I am not a people person. I'm
oh, come on.
Like, out of the group of guys that we all hang around with, I'm the one who looks like he doesn't want to talk to anybody. And it's like, I'm the magnet. Everybody comes to talk to me.
It's like a person that doesn't like dogs. The dog always comes to that person.
Uh-huh.
So it's some kind of vibe.
Yep. But it's the people, the people that we get to meet, and, the stories that we get to tell, about the harvest that we made or the deer that we missed, I cut up on Matt a lot because he can't shoot a gun worth crap. And, here I am with a flintlock shooting deer at 300 yards. And, it's the stuff that we do, and it's what we like to do. And this started out as, we did this to kind of help another show that we were on in the off season, and never thinking that here we are, 4 years later, 5 years later now?
Yeah, something like that.
That we're still going and still finding people to talk to.
Yeah. Well, you must be inquisitive, because that's kind of goes with that territory.
Yeah. Yeah. And hooking up with you guys after we did the back 40 and you had messaged me the next day. This is,
yeah.
I've been looking at everything and checking it all out, and I'm like, man, there's a lot to this chestnut stuff and growing trees, period. I've never gotten into it, but I think if I can get our lease guy to give us a longer lease, I'd like to start doing a tree program over there to help.
Yeah. Tell them to come down on the rate a little bit because you're improving the value.
That is a good point there.
Yeah, well, we all know the guy that owns this property. He thinks that, we don't want to get into that because he might listen.
The tree business is definitely, like I said, it's an investment. And I always tell the customers, we have return customers that come, every year to buy some trees because they do get, it's like anything, it's expensive. And you just plan on growing so many each year. You have a budget. It's like a car. You don't go out and pay cash for a car. You have monthly payments.
Right.
And, it's a lot easier, say my budget's, say, $500 this year or whatever it is. And you go out and plant so many trees over a period of time, you look back and it's so rewarding when you see what you did in that length of time.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just something that, we bought our first few trees, and then I said, man, we need a lot more trees. And that's how I got into growing them. And
it's a lot of work.
And I enjoyed it so much, that's how, we got started doing it. But it was mainly just trees put on our property. And now, I have customers several states around Kentucky that, make the drive each year to get trees to put on their property.
Yeah, it is a lot of work though. And sometimes people ask, for discounts or whatever. And I would say, sure, we probably can do that. And then now I've had to start helping Brad and I see how hard it is. So there are no more discounts.
Right. Right. I mean, I watched a video of, or when I guess it was your grandson that was helping you. It said first day of help at the United Chestnut planting trees.
That, it. Yes, it was a friend of ours, but yeah, it's the first time we had some help. And, I already have a full-time career and I travel all the time and I'm out. But you know what? It's just like hunting in general. The passion spurs you on to do all the things that all hunters do. And to us, this is just part of that.
Mm-hmm.
You got to love it.
Yes, it's work. It's work to, a lot of people, but like the saying is, you find something you love, you never work a day in your life.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's really, true. You get out there and you're out in the woods every day doing something, whether it's in a food plot or on a hardwood ridge or out, whatever. Just being out there is just, you got to love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most people that have land, they do love it.
All right. So you guys a little bit ago mentioned about the trees. You don't necessarily need to have a green thumb to plant them. My question to that is, I have absolutely no green thumb. What would be a good depth to plant this tree? Is it a shallow root? Do I need to dig down 5 feet, 10 feet, half a foot? What do we need to do here?
Well, any tree that you buy, whatever the pot is, you don't want to go any deeper than what the tree's growing there. So say if most of our trees are in 3-gallon grow bags, they're about an inch. When you drill a hole or dig a hole, whichever you use, whether you auger or shovel, you don't want to dig any deeper than that pot. It's critical to, it's better to have the pot sticking up a little bit than it is to sink down. Because if you dig the hole too deep, you say, I went too deep, and you put a little bit more dirt in there and you put it on there, over time, that dirt will settle and that tree will sink down even lower. You want to, whatever the pot depth is how deep you want to put it, no deeper. You can dig it as wide as you want because them new roots will spread out even more quicker because don't dig any deeper than what the pot is. And I usually like to dig it about 3 to 4 inches bigger around than the pot, because as I'm putting the dirt in there, I like to pack it in with my heel of my boot. Some people, it's good to sometimes put water in there, but up here, the mud, it'll just get to a muddy mess, and it's like playing in a soup pie. But it's important to get that dirt as packed as you can to get out any voids that's in there in the soil.
Is there a special type of fertilizer that you should be putting in the hole when you're digging?
Well, usually I tell people the best time to get the tree is when they're dormant, when they're sleeping. Like once the leaves pretty much turn and they go to sleep, I recommend doing, the biggest thing, you can plant them anytime, but the transportation, hauling a tree, a lot of people go to Home Depot, Walmart, wherever it is, and get a tree and just throw it in the back of the truck. Time they get where they're going, the leaves they're just shredded. Whether the wind will just tear them to pieces. That's why I like to do them when they're dormant, because they'll hold their leaves, but they're not doing anything when they're dormant. And
so the fertilizer,
I wouldn't fertilize them until the spring of, when they start leaving out good and there's no danger of frost. I would probably wait, depending on what area you're in. You're looking at March, April, May, depending on where you're at. But, you don't want to generate growth and have like a late frost and burn everything off. And a good fertilizer is probably like triple 10,
Okay.
for a chestnut.
Okay.
And we found over time that there's many different views on every single subject. So we just say this is what we found works for us. We talked to 10 other people. There might be 9 more versions of what the right thing to do, but it's worked for us, so we feel comfortable.
Right.
Yeah, fertilizing is important when they're growing like that first year, and it's like anything else. You don't want to fertilize it and then don't get any rain.
Right.
And you want to keep that fertilizer outside the root ball that you planted. Don't get it up against the trunk of the tree, because the roots, they'll work their way out. And a lot of times it's good to scratch the ground a little bit and then cover the fertilizer up, because any nitrogen that you have, if you just put it on top of the ground, a lot of that nitrogen will bleed out into the atmosphere and you're losing a lot of it. So if you can kind of put a thin layer of dirt over the top of the fertilizer, you're getting more, more for your buck doing that. But
no pun intended.
Yeah. And it's a key also, if you can spray around the trees when they're young. A lot of people, don't want to use, any kind of herbicide or anything like that. And they use mulch or some kind of like silk screen in a way. They have them fabric things, or to kind of keep the more vegetation you keep away from the tree, where all the nutrients go to the tree, is a big help on getting that tree started too. The more vegetation, grass, all that, because it's sucking water and nutrients away from that tree.
So you don't want to spray like Roundup or any stuff around the bottom of the tree, do you?
Well, I use Roundup. A lot of people don't want that. I usually, when I plant a tree, I'll use some of that black corrugated pipe, about 10 or 12 inches of it, to put around the base. I'll go ahead and slit down the side and around the bottom of the tree. Because even though you have a basket, sometimes if a rabbit gets in there or they'll eat the bark around the base of the tree.
Okay.
So when they're young, I usually use that piece of pipe, and it also keeps that herbicide from getting on. You definitely don't want it to spray on the tree, because when they're young like that, the bark is the same as a leaf.
Okay.
It's sucking in, sunlight, photosynthesis, whatever they want to, the bark is acting as the leaf when they're young like that. So you definitely don't want to get it sprayed.
Okay.
Now,
but I do use herbicide on that, and it definitely helps the growth of the tree.
Now, do you recommend, when somebody's going to start planting trees on their property, doing a soil test like you would for a food plot, or is it kind of like it's not a huge deal?
Well, it's an investment in trees, so I would recommend trying to get a soil test if you're, like I said, below 5
for pH.
pH. You definitely want to either add some lime to it, if you're wanting to do it. But if you, like I said previous, if you have a lot of white oak, red oak, or hickory in the area, your soil's probably going to be okay for chestnut and sawtooth for that matter.
Yeah, but the extension offices, it's no cost generally, or it's minimal.
Yeah,
so it's
soil test.
doing
Yes, it's worth. I would recommend getting the soil test, because you can run, depending on how many trees, it's a big investment.
Yeah, I mean, we soil test for our food plot, so it's no big deal to take a scoop and send it out. Because I think our food plot's got to be right around the same 5 is what we want.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and a lot of people, that I deal with, it's growing trees, on their hunting property. They're putting them around the outskirts of the tree line, around the food plot.
Yep.
You know, so you're getting, a bonus. They're coming to the food plot and the nut bearing trees, because they don't just eat one thing. A deer's a browser, and he's going to, no matter what they like, they'll nibble a little bit and they'll wander off and get something else, and they might come back, but they're going to get a variety in their diet.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we might have covered this earlier in the episode, but my memory's not that good anymore. When is the benefit of a chestnut is that it will drop earlier than acorns? Was that correct? Or when can you expect it to start dropping to really bring those deer and different animals in?
Well, the chestnuts are going to pretty much bear. They're going to start dropping their nuts about mid-September, maybe late September to mid to late October, and they'll be done. Now your sawtooth, they're going to drop early September, and they're definitely going to drop early. And I always try to tell people, and what I've done on my property, I try to grow so many that they can't deplenish the nuts. I want them, to have so many nuts, and they might look over some of the nuts on the property. And I know you've walked in the woods late December, January, and that they'll come back to them trees that they overlooked, and they'll be nosing around, and they'll find them nuts that they overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going, the food source, food plots and all that. That's why they're so beneficial in the late season, because all the browse is pretty much gone. And they'll scavenge for stuff they might have been a little bit too picky. They're not as picky in the wintertime when there's not as much food.
Yeah. One other thing we didn't really mention is that the chestnut themselves are in a very spiky burr. And so those burrs drop and they split open and the chestnuts fall out. So sometimes later in the year, you'll see some of those that are just sitting there and haven't been discovered. But it's not always the best tree for like yards because those things are so spiky and
you don't want to step on one, that's for sure.
What if one falls and hits you on the head?
Yeah,
you have to wear a helmet. Yeah, he tried to get me out there with no helmet, but I caught on to him.
Well, I know I was in the tree stand one time and got hit in the top of the head with an Osage orange ball, and that is not very fun.
Oh,
that thing almost knocked me out. But I'm trying to think how I want to phrase the question. Can you plant them with the sawtooth, like a chestnut tree, a sawtooth, chestnut tree, a sawtooth? Can you stagger them, or do you want to keep them separate?
Yeah, the biggest thing with chestnuts, you need at least two so they cross-pollinate with each other. Of course, the more the merrier, as far as the more trees you have, the better pollination.
Okay.
Because both trees have the flower and they cross with each other to have the nut.
Okay.
But you'll be able to do that. You can stagger them like that. And they'll be able to get pollinated. I mean, I know people that had trees and you need at least two. And this one older gentleman, he had a big one in his yard. And I said, do you have any more? And he said, no. I said, well, there's one around here that's getting pollinated somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But, you need at least two, and the more the merrier as far as the pollination.
One other thing that's kind of popular that we haven't done, but are you guys familiar with the pawpaw plant?
Yep.
They put those underneath the chestnuts in a lot of cases. So trying to create a little bit of biodiversity, I think, and just another food product.
The archery shop that we work at in the fall, the guy's yard that butts up against the archery shop, he's got a pawpaw tree. And we go out there and steal all his pawpaws before he gets to them. And he gets, as long as we save him a few, he's happy. But those things are addicting. Yeah. You start eating them things, man, oh, my God.
Yeah. We're going to have to try those.
I tried planting them, but they didn't work. I used the seeds that came out of their fruit. I probably didn't let them go long enough. Probably didn't let them dry long enough. But he told me he'd get me the seeds to start it, and that never we just kind of left it go and never did anything with it.
It's just easier to go get his pawpaw.
Yeah, his tree's already putting fruit off. I just go there with a basket and take his.
A lot of the trees that I talked to some people at the Nut Growers Association, and they were big on the pawpaws. And of course, Kentucky is kind of right in the heart of where they're famous for growing them. And I told him I'd never heard of a pawpaw, and he about fell out. Well, he said, haven't you ever seen them in the woods? And because they just grow up here. I said, well, I've never noticed. I haven't been in the woods since I was a little kid, but he was telling me a lot of them, it's best to be grafted because a lot of them won't bear fruit, So that might be something. I know. I think it's Western Kentucky University or something like that. I think they're pretty big on growing them. But
anyway,
yeah, it's something to look into because there's a lot of things out there. Most fruit trees that you buy, they're grafted.
Yeah.
So, and it's usually like two different varieties when they bear the best too. As far as the cross pollination of it.
You got any more questions for him, Matt?
Not that I can think of, buddy. You got anything else? Or anything else you guys want to add? We're just about here with the hour time limit.
Yeah, no, just that you're more than welcome to come visit us and see a tour and just spend the day or half a day or something. We'd love to show you around.
Yeah, we might have to do that here. So do you want to let everybody know how they can see more or learn more about the trees?
Yes, absolutely. Our website is unitedchestnuts.com. We have a Facebook page for United Chestnuts, but we also have United Chestnut Communities group. And the purpose of that is just to share stories of successes and tips and wins and all that kind of thing. And all of it's relatively new because we went through a rebranding, but we sure would appreciate anyone joining and helping us learn together, growing together, we say. So thank you for asking that.
Oh, but I appreciate you guys taking the time out to come talk to us and teach us a little bit about this. And it's interesting to get to know more things that we can put out there for our wildlife to keep them interested in our property. And
definitely,
I'm 100% for stealing my neighbor's deer and keeping them on my property. It's just, we got some neighbors over there that ain't so friendly, and we grow these really nice bucks, and then they sneak in there. Thank God for cell cams to catch them and everything else. But still, we put all the work into it, and the neighbors are, they're reaping the harvest, and it's kind of upsetting after a while.
We'll get you about 100 chestnuts. You'll be all set.
But there's still a couple of the big bucks that made it through, and maybe they'll start enjoying some chestnuts here pretty soon. So
that's why we got to keep doing these podcasts, buddy. We got to keep paying bills so that we can spend all this money on stuff that we find. That's been, you asked earlier, the most fun about it is, and Rob said it is talking and meeting with different people. But I am finding this podcast to become rather expensive because we just continue to get ideas that we buy stuff then for.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
But thank you again, guys, for taking the
Thanks,
time.
guys.
Hang out with us for just a couple minutes here. We're going to run through some of our sponsors, and we appreciate it. And we'll give us 1 second.
I got to pull up my list. Creek Archery, find your passion and hunt it down. It's that time of year, Matt. Catch Chris because it's June. That means he's going to be golfing. So better get him before he gets out on the golf course. Get your archery needs now. Find your passion, hunt it down. Creek Archery.
And we got Hillview Motors, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram, your one-stop shop for all your automobile needs. New, used, certified, pre-owned. Stop in and see our good buddy Steve Huba and the rest of the fantastic sales team. If your car needs service done, head back there, get you taken care of. If you've hit one of these unfortunate critters running around here in Western PA, stop back, see Butch in the body shop, certified to work on many makes and models. They'll get that car put back together, looking brand new, just from the detail shop afterwards. Stop out, check them out at hillviewmotors.com, and remember, Hillview has it.
I don't know how many predators like to eat chestnuts, but I'm sure Bill Duke would like to hear about, setting some traps around some chestnut trees for some raccoons. So www.duketraps.com. Check them out. Bill and them guys will take care of all your trapping needs. They got all your supplies. So give them a holler.
And we got your buddy,
Dear P. Dave.
Dear Lord Dave.
I'm sure he likes chestnut trees.
I'm sure he does too. You know what you could probably do with a chestnut tree? You could probably put some of that fantastic apparition scents.
Yeah, but we got to wait till it gets older so the deer don't destroy it.
Good point. Yeah, I learn everything from this podcast. Check out Apparition Scents. It's never too early to start getting inventory on the bucks for this year with the Nightmare.
The Undertaker.
Get your scrapes out. Once the season hits, you want to get some of that Inferno towards the end of it there.
Mm-hmm.
And the Phantom Hunter to keep you scent free, both from the woods back home.
Yeah, you'll be moving stands and stuff around, so keep about all that stuff with you because you're going to start to sweat. Phantom Hunter kills everything, so look them up. 100% lethal apparition scent.
And we got our good friends over at Chico Outdoors. Chico Outdoors is a nonprofit organization that likes to give back and promote outdoor recreational activities such as hunting, fishing, shooting, you name it. It's in honor of Matt Kreis's brother, Andrew Chico Kreis, unfortunately passed away, and they're continuing this in his memory. They have the annual outdoor show at the Westmoreland Fairgrounds. It's already in the works for 2024. Check them out on Facebook and Instagram at Chico Outdoors. Follow along. It's a great group of people giving back to the local communities.
We got Bow Creek Outdoors, one of the best cell cams that we use. I have yet to find a better camera out there. These things are made locally, Pennsylvania, veteran owned. They work on all three.
Yep, the
major
cell phone
cell towers.
Yep, Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile take high quality photos and videos with sound.
Videos with sound,
which is pretty cool.
Yep.
Have a ridiculous range on them. And the best thing is customer service.
Yeah.
You get a hold of Matt, he'll take care of the problem any way he can.
Yep.
Check him out at bowcreekoutdoors.com, also on Facebook.
And
we talked Harleys earlier for a brief moment. We're going to try to fit a chestnut tree or two on one of them.
Yeah.
But stop up at Z&M Harley Davidson here in Greensburg. You got to go there. We're going to be there for bike nights throughout the summer, here and there. So stop up and check out all the bikes they got, what's going on, food trucks, different prizes, giveaways. You got your Reason to Ride pass. Get out there, support some of the local restaurants while putting some miles on your bike.
Mm-hmm.
If you need a new bike.
Good salesman up there. Go stop up there and see them. They'll get you any ride you want.
Man, and I'm telling you, last time we were up there, had to been 200 plus bikes there.
Yeah.
That I could see.
Yeah. It's starting to get a little crowded walking through the showroom.
It is. Parts, if you need to upgrade something or broke something on there, if you broke it, take it back to the service department. Top-notch service department, award-winning service. They got the new express lane to get simple things done on the weekend.
Yep.
Check all the information out, new used bikes on znmharleydavidson.com.
Yep. And check out our buddies at Back 40 Seed Company. Give them a holler. It's still not too late to get your food plots in.
God, I hope not, because we still don't have ours in.
Give Roy a holler. He'll get you set up on what you need. And don't forget to check out the United Chestnuts on Facebook. Get your chestnut trees. Support these fine people. This was a very interesting podcast, and we're definitely going to have to do this again. Maybe we can do something live when we take a ride down there. Who knows? So,
Beautiful Harley country.
Oh, all right, now, man. So, follow along with us on Facebook, Instagram. Check out the YouTube channel. And if you want to hear more outdoor-related content, you can download the Outdoor Call Radio app 24/7, 365 days. Hunting, fishing, trapping, cooking, Bigfoots.
Yep.
You name it, it's on there. It's outdoor-related. Download the Outdoor Call Radio app on your Android or iPhone.
well, Melinda and Brad, we appreciate you guys coming on and sharing the knowledge of the chestnut trees with us. And we will keep in touch. And we
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time.
Thank you.
All right. You guys take care.
You
Yeah,
too.
guys.
Have a good one.